The morning sunlight spilled through the dusty glass doors of Fresh Mart Grocery, painting long golden lines across the floor. The store wasn't fancy, but to Lena Morales, it was her second home. She had worked there for nearly 5 years, standing behind Register 3, scanning groceries, and greeting customers with the same warm smile she wore on her first day. Lena wasn't rich, nor did she have big dreams of becoming famous. All she wanted was peace, a simple life, enough to pay her bills, and the respect that every hard worker deserved. But respect, as she'd learned, wasn't something everyone gave easily. It was 8:30 a.m., and the store had just opened. The smell of fresh bread from the bakery filled the air, mixing with the faint buzz of the refrigerators. Lena adjusted her green apron, tied her hair neatly, and started organizing her counter. Receipt paper, change drawer, sanitizer, everything in its perfect place. "Morning, Lena," called Emma, a fellow cashier in her 20s, as she clocked in. "Morning," Lena smiled. "Ready for another long day?" Emma chuckled. "Always. Let's just hope Rick is in a good mood today." They both knew what that meant. Rick Thompson was the store manager, tall, loud, and always in a rush. He wore his badge like a Medal of Honor and his authority like armor. He wasn't the worst boss in the world, but he had a habit of making people feel small, especially the ones who didn't fight back. And Lena, she never did. She believed in staying calm. She believed that kindness, in the long run, always won. But lately, even her patience was wearing thin. Tea happened mid-morning. The rush hour crowd had begun, customers with coffee cups in hand, office workers grabbing lunch snacks, and a few elderly regulars chatting by the produce section. Lena scanned items quietly, her rhythm steady and efficient. "Next in line, please," she said softly. Then came Rick's voice from behind her. "Lena, what's taking so long at your register?" His tone was sharp enough to cut through the hum of conversation. Lena froze for a second. "I'm just finishing up with Mrs. Kent's coupons," she said politely. Rick rolled his eyes. "You spend too much time chatting with customers. This isn't a coffee shop." Mrs. Kent, a sweet elderly woman, frowned slightly. "She's always kind to me," she said softly. Rick ignored her. "Move it along, Lena. We need efficiency, not friendliness." Lena forced a small smile. "Yes, sir." Her hands moved faster, her heart slower. She didn't want to cry, not in front of anyone. When her shift slowed down, Lena went to the back room to restock receipt rolls. The staff break area was small, one metal table, a flickering vending machine, and a few mismatched chairs. Emma walked in, shaking her head. "Rick gave you grief again?" Lena sighed. "He's just doing his job." "No," Emma said firmly. "He's being a jerk. You work harder than anyone here." Lena smiled faintly. "Maybe, but it doesn't matter. I'm just a cashier." She said it without thinking, but the words hung in the air, heavy and sad. Emma frowned. "Don't say that. You're not just anything." Lena looked down at her hands. They were rough from years of scanning, lifting, packing, and cleaning. "Sometimes it feels like that's all people see," she whispered. Later that day, as she cleaned up aisle 6, she overheard 2 co-workers whispering. "Rick said Lena will never move up," one said. "He told the new guy she's just a cashier. Reliable but replaceable." The words stung, though they weren't meant for her ears. Lena pretended not to hear, but inside something cracked. For years she had been loyal, covering shifts, staying late, training new hires. And yet, it seemed none of it mattered. She went back to her register, head held high but eyes a little dimmer. As the evening sun began to fade, a man in his 60s entered the store. He wore a plain jacket, carried no basket, and walked slowly through the aisles. His eyes lingered, not on the products, but on the people. When he reached Lena's counter, he smiled. "Good evening, young lady." "Good evening, sir. Find everything okay?" He nodded, placing a few small items on the belt, a bottle of milk, a loaf of bread, and a newspaper. "You've been here long?" he asked. "Almost 5 years," she said, scanning the items. "That's dedication," he replied thoughtfully. Lena shrugged with a small laugh. "I guess I just like it here." He smiled. "That says a lot about you." She handed him his receipt. "Have a great day, sir." "And you too, Miss Morales," he said, reading her name tag before walking away. Lena didn't think much of it then, but later she'd remember his calm eyes, the kind that didn't miss much. Just before closing time, the store was nearly empty. Rick came over to Lena's register again, clipboard in hand. "You're short $2 in your till," he said flatly. "That can't be right," Lena replied. "I double-counted before lunch." "Well, it's your responsibility," he snapped. "If this keeps happening, we'll have to talk about your reliability." Her cheeks burned. "It's only $2, Rick. I'll check again." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Don't argue. You're not in a position to." Lena bit her lip and nodded. Then, as if twisting the knife, he muttered, "You're just a cashier, Lena. Don't forget that." He walked away, leaving her staring at the empty register light, blinking red like a wound that wouldn't close. When everyone left, Lena stayed behind to balance her till. She found the missing $2, miscounted under a receipt. She sighed in relief, but felt no victory. As she placed the money in the drawer, she whispered to herself, "Just a cashier, huh?" Her reflection in the register glass looked tired, but not broken. Outside, the streetlights flickered to life. She grabbed her coat and stepped out into the cool evening air. The wind was soft, carrying the faint smell of rain. She didn't know that someone had been watching, not with judgment, but with quiet curiosity. The same man from earlier, the one with kind eyes, stood across the street, talking on his phone. "Yes," he said softly, "I saw everything. She's remarkable." Rick, on the other hand. He paused, looking back at the store's glowing sign. "We'll talk tomorrow." The next morning came too soon. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds, and the city felt slower than usual. Lena sipped her coffee in silence before her shift. She had barely slept. Rick's words from the night before still echoed in her mind. "You're just a cashier." No matter how many times she tried to brush it off, those words cut deep. Not because she believed them, but because she had spent years proving they weren't true. By 9 a.m., the store buzzed with energy. The rhythmic beep-beep-beep of scanners echoed from every register. Rick stood near the customer service counter, barking orders as if conducting a noisy orchestra. "Emma, speed it up on register 4. And someone clean up aisle 8. It looks like a toddler exploded in there." Lena kept her focus on her customers. A gentle smile. A thank you. A kind word. Her movements were practiced, graceful even. But every time she looked up, Rick seemed to be watching her, arms crossed, eyes critical. A young mother approached Lena's counter with a fussy toddler. The child was crying, pulling at his mother's sleeve. Lena crouched slightly to meet his eyes. "Hey there, buddy. You helping Mom today?" The boy sniffled, clutching his toy car. Lena handed him a small sticker from the counter. "You did great waiting in line. Here, a little reward. The boy smiled for the first time. His mother looked relieved. "Thank you, you're so kind," she said. Lena smiled softly. "We all have those days." As they left, she noticed Rick glaring. He didn't see the kindness, only the seconds lost. At lunch, Lena sat alone at the corner table, eating her sandwich. The hum of the vending machine filled the silence. Two co-workers, Tina and Mark, sat nearby, talking in low voices. "You hear about Rick's meeting with corporate?" Tina whispered. "Yeah," Mark replied. "Apparently, the owner might visit next week." "Huh. I bet Rick's going to pretend like he's perfect." They both laughed quietly. Then Tina's tone shifted. "I just hope he doesn't take it out on Lena again. Poor thing." Lena kept her eyes on her sandwich, pretending not to hear. She didn't want pity. She just wanted peace. By afternoon, the air in the store felt heavier. Rick's impatience grew with every small delay. When the receipt printer jammed at Lena's register, he was there in seconds. "What's going on here?" he demanded. "The paper's stuck," Lena said calmly. "I just need a second to." "You should have replaced it earlier. You know better than that." She nodded quietly, though she hadn't done anything wrong. Rick sighed loudly. "You're too slow, Lena. Too soft." The customers nearby exchanged uncomfortable glances. Then he said it again, louder this time, in front of everyone. "You're just a cashier, Lena. Stop acting like this job is harder than it is." The words hung in the air like smoke. The customer, a middle-aged man buying groceries, looked at Rick in disbelief. Lena felt the blood rush to her face. Her throat tightened, but she forced a polite smile. "I'll fix it right away," she said softly. Rick turned and walked off, shaking his head. The man leaned in slightly. "That wasn't right," he whispered. Lena just smiled faintly. "It's fine. He's just under pressure." But it wasn't fine. Not really. As she finished the transaction, her hands moved automatically, but her thoughts raced. "You're just a cashier." It echoed again and again, not as Rick's voice now, but her own inner whisper. Was she really just that? She remembered how she'd helped an old man find his favorite coffee brand last week. How she stayed late to clean the aisles when the janitor called in sick. How she trained new hires without complaint. She remembered every smile, every thank you, every small act that made her job feel human. "No," she thought. "I'm not just a cashier." She took a deep breath and straightened her back. Emma returned from her break and saw the look on Lena's face. "What happened?" she asked quietly. "Nothing," Lena said, scanning items. Emma frowned. "Let me guess. Rick again?" Lena didn't respond, but her silence said enough. Emma leaned closer. "You don't deserve that. Everyone here knows you're the heart of this place." Lena smiled faintly. "He's just stressed." "No," Emma said firmly. "He's cruel. And one day, someone's going to see it." Lena wanted to believe her. But in her world, fairness always came slow, if at all. That evening, as Lena was organizing receipts, she overheard two employees near the stockroom. "Rick's in a mood again," said Jared, one of the night shift guys. "He keeps saying Lena slows everyone down," replied Tina. "Honestly, I think he's threatened by her," Jared joked. Tina chuckled. "Threatened? By Lena?" They both laughed lightly, not realizing she was only a few feet away. Lena froze behind a shelf, heart heavy. It wasn't the first time she'd heard people talk. But tonight, It hurt differently. It wasn't anger she felt. It was weariness, the kind that seeps into your bones. When the store quieted, Lena began wiping down her counter, humming softly to herself. Music always helped. It was her way of pushing the day behind her. But tonight, the air felt different. As she turned off her register light, she saw Rick standing near the front doors, talking to someone on his phone. His tone was lighter, almost charming. "Yes, everything's running smoothly," he said. "Staff's doing fine. I've got them in line." Lena could tell from his grin that he was talking to someone important. Probably corporate, she thought. She walked past him quietly, not wanting to draw attention. "Lena," he called suddenly. She turned. "Yes." He crossed his arms. "Next time I tell you to pick up the pace, do it. We can't afford to babysit employees who can't handle pressure." Lena's chest tightened. "Understood." He nodded dismissively. "Good. See you tomorrow." As she stepped outside, she could still feel his voice on her back like a weight. That night, she stopped at the corner cafe before heading home. The same one she always visited when her heart felt heavy. The barista smiled. "Rough day again?" Lena laughed quietly. "You could say that." As she waited for her tea, she noticed a small poster on the wall. It read, "Kindness doesn't need a title." She smiled to herself. It felt like a whisper from the universe. Across the street, the same older man from before, the one with the kind eyes, sat in his car. He was looking at the store again, thoughtful. He had been there the whole afternoon, observing quietly. He had seen how Lena treated customers, how Rick spoke to her, how the staff moved around her like quiet witnesses. He took a small notebook from his jacket and wrote something down. Respect unseen is respect undeserved. Then he closed it gently. Tomorrow, he thought, would be interesting. The morning hum of Fresh Mart began like always. Carts rolling, scanners beeping, customers talking softly. But today, a new face walked through the door. He wore an old windbreaker, plain jeans, and glasses that caught the soft glow of fluorescent lights. He didn't look important. He didn't need to. This was Miguel Rivera, the store's owner, though no one here knew that. To the employees, he was just another customer. To Miguel, this wasn't a random visit. It was an investigation. For weeks, he'd been hearing quiet complaints. Low morale, rude management, high turnover. And one name kept appearing in the notes, Rick Thompson. So Miguel decided to see it himself. Not from the corner office. Not through numbers on a report. But right here, on the floor. Miguel moved slowly through the aisles, pretending to browse. His eyes took in everything. The way employees greeted customers, how the store felt, how people treated each other when no one was watching. And there she was, Lena Morales, Register 3. The same name that appeared several times in customer feedback. Polite, kind, patient, deserves recognition. He watched her carefully. Her movements were steady, practiced. She smiled without effort, her tone always gentle. When a child dropped a candy bar, she picked it up and said, "Don't worry, we've all been there." No irritation, no complaint. There was something in her, a quiet pride, the kind of integrity you couldn't train or fake. Miguel nodded to himself. That's the kind of person a store survives on. And then, as if on cue, Rick Thompson appeared, clipboard in hand, voice cutting through the hum like a saw. "Lena, you've got 3 people waiting. Move faster." Lena looked up, startled but calm. "I'm finishing a card transaction, sir. I'll be—" Rick interrupted, louder this time. No excuses. You're just a cashier, not a customer service rep. Keep the line moving. The words landed sharp and cold. A few customers turned their heads. One woman frowned. Miguel's expression didn't change, but inside something tightened. He'd managed hundreds of people in his lifetime, and he could tell the difference between leadership and ego. This was ego. Lena simply nodded and continued, her hands trembling slightly, but her voice steady. "Thank you for waiting. I'll get you through quickly." She didn't defend herself. She didn't fight back. And that, somehow, made the insult sting even more. Miguel lingered near the gum rack, pretending to study the flavors while his mind turned. He remembered being young, sweeping floors in his father's bakery. A manager once scolded him in front of customers for being too slow. He never forgot the shame that followed. Now, decades later, he saw the same thing replayed. Different place. Same arrogance. He thought of Rick's personnel file. Strong numbers, organized schedules, efficient reports. On paper, Rick looked like the perfect manager. But numbers couldn't measure character. And right now, character was what this store lacked. Miguel approached Register 3 quietly, holding a small basket with only a few items, milk, bread, and a box of tea. He wanted to see how Lena treated a stranger. "Good morning," she said softly. "Did you find everything okay?" "Yes, thank you," Miguel replied, voice calm, eyes kind. As she rang up his items, a customer behind him dropped a bottle of juice. The red liquid splashed across the floor. Rick appeared almost instantly, frustration already in his tone. "Who did that?" he barked. The customer apologized quickly, flustered. Before Rick could say more, Lena stepped in. "It's fine, sir. I'll clean it up. No harm done." Rick frowned. You're on register duty." "I'll handle it right after I finish this customer," she said politely. Miguel watched her balance firmness and respect. There was quiet authority in her voice, not defiance, but dignity. Rick shook his head and muttered, "Unbelievable. Just a cashier playing hero." Then he walked away. Miguel's jaw tightened, though he kept his voice neutral as he paid. "You handled that well," he said softly. She smiled. "Thank you. Just part of the job." Miguel paused. "You've worked here long?" "Almost 5 years," she replied. "It's home, I guess." He nodded, studying her face, tired eyes, but still hopeful. He took his receipt and added quietly, "People like you keep places like this alive." Her smile deepened just a little. "That's kind of you to say." An hour later, Miguel sat in his car across the street, the receipt still in his hand. He had come expecting to verify complaints. He left knowing they were true. He'd seen Rick's arrogance, the lack of respect, the way kindness was treated like weakness. And he'd seen Lena, standing tall in quiet defiance, never breaking character even when humiliated. He opened a small notebook and began to write. Observation. Lena. Consistent professionalism. Rick. Demeaning behavior, visible to customers. Staff morale. Low. Plan. Test integrity further before confrontation. He closed the notebook slowly. Tomorrow, he decided, he wouldn't come as a silent observer. He'd come as himself. But not right away. Not yet. First, he wanted to see how Rick acted when he thought the owner wasn't watching, and how he'd behave when he thought he was. A small smile tugged at Miguel's lips. "Let's see what kind of man you really are, Rick," he murmured. He started the engine, the sound low and steady. Outside, The neon open sign flickered in the store window like a heartbeat. And inside, Lena kept working, unaware that her quiet strength had just changed everything. The next morning, the world seemed unusually calm. The sky was clear, sunlight danced across the glass storefront, and the familiar hum of Freshmart filled the air. But for some reason, it felt different, like the air itself was waiting for something to happen. Lena arrived early, as she always did. She clocked in, tied her apron neatly, and began checking her register. Emma greeted her with a smile. "Morning, Lena. You look tired." Lena laughed softly. "Late night, that's all." "Rick's already in," Emma said with a smirk. "Looks like he's trying to impress someone. Corporate called this morning. They're sending an inspector or something." Lena nodded. "Then we'd better make today a good one." She didn't know that the inspector wasn't a stranger at all. It was Miguel Rivera, the man she'd helped the day before. And today, he wasn't wearing a windbreaker. He was coming as the owner. By mid-morning, the store was buzzing with nervous energy. Rick moved quickly, his shirt neatly pressed, clipboard in hand, barking polite orders this time instead of insults. "Everyone, make sure your stations are spotless," he said. "I want perfect behavior today. Corporate might be walking through any minute." He straightened displays, adjusted signs, and even smiled, a strange, rehearsed smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Lena," he said suddenly, "make sure your till's balanced. We can't have mistakes today." "Yes, sir," she replied calmly. Inside, she just wanted the day to pass quietly. Then, around 10 o'clock, the doors opened, and Miguel Rivera walked in. This time, no disguise. He wore a clean navy blazer, quiet confidence in every step. A few employees glanced curiously, whispering. Rick spotted him immediately and hurried over, his practiced smile returning. "Good morning, sir. Welcome to Freshmart. I'm Rick Thompson, the manager here. How can I help you today?" Miguel looked around slowly before meeting Rick's eyes. "Ah, so you're Rick." "Yes, sir," Rick said, puffing his chest slightly. "We've been expecting corporate for an inspection." "Glad you're here." Miguel nodded. "Good. Let's take a walk." As they walked down the aisles, Rick chattered non-stop. "We've improved efficiency by 12% this quarter, reduced waste by 8%. I've been implementing new policies to keep employees productive and focused." Miguel listened quietly. His expression gave nothing away. He stopped occasionally to look at displays, shelves, and workers. Lena passed by them once, and her eyes widened slightly when she recognized the man from yesterday. The quiet customer. He gave her a small, knowing smile. Rick noticed. "Ah, that's Lena. She's reliable, though sometimes a bit too soft. Needs to toughen up a little." Miguel's smile faded. "Oh, in what way?" Rick shrugged. "She's good with customers, but she slows things down with small talk. Not really management material, if you know what I mean." Miguel's voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "I see." They continued walking, Miguel taking mental notes. Every word Rick said confirmed what he already knew. By noon, Miguel asked to gather the staff for a short meeting. Rick eagerly agreed, thinking it was a formality. "Everyone," Rick called out, clapping his hands. "Corporate's here to give us feedback. Let's make a good impression." The staff gathered near the customer service counter, nervous, curious, and whispering among themselves. Miguel stood in front of them, posture straight but relaxed. "Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Miguel Rivera." He paused, letting the name settle. "I'm not from corporate," he continued. "I'm the owner of this store, and several others in this region." Gasps rippled through the group. Rick froze mid-smile, the color draining from his face. "The owner," he stammered. "Yes," Miguel said evenly. "And I've been visiting stores quietly this month. Yesterday, I came here as a customer." Now, the room went still. Rick's hands fidgeted at his sides. Lena's heart pounded. Miguel looked directly at Lena. "I had the pleasure of being helped by one of your employees, this young woman right here." Every head turned to her. Lena looked surprised, almost embarrassed. "Me?" "Yes," Miguel said with a kind smile. "You treated me with respect and patience. You showed care for every person who came through your line, even when you weren't being treated kindly yourself." The room was silent. Rick shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, I can explain." Miguel held up a hand. "You'll have your turn, Rick." Miguel's voice stayed calm, but there was authority behind every word. "I stood right there," he said, pointing to Register 3. "I heard how you spoke to your employees, especially Lena. I heard the words, 'You're just a cashier.'" Rick's face turned red. "Sir, that was taken out of context. I was trying to motivate her." "Motivate?" Miguel interrupted softly. "By humiliating her in front of customers?" Rick swallowed hard. I was under stress. You know how demanding this position is." Miguel stepped closer. "I've managed stores. I know pressure. But I also know that no amount of stress gives anyone the right to treat people with disrespect." The employees nodded quietly. Some looked relieved. Others, vindicated. Rick's voice wavered. I didn't realize you were there, sir." "That's the problem," Miguel replied. "You should treat people with respect even when no one is watching." Miguel turned back to Lena. "I want to thank you, Lena, not just for how you treated me, but for how you treat everyone who walks through those doors. You remind me of why this company exists, to serve people with dignity." Lena's eyes watered. "Thank you, sir. I just try to do my best." "And that," Miguel said, smiling warmly, "is exactly what true professionalism looks like." He turned to the rest of the team. "Let this be clear. Titles don't make anyone better. The heart you bring to your work does. Lena, from this moment forward, I'd like to promote you to Customer Experience Supervisor. You've earned it." A murmur of joy spread through the group. Emma clapped first, then others joined in, genuine applause echoing across the floor. Lena covered her mouth, overwhelmed. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Just keep doing what you've always done," Miguel said gently. "Lead with kindness." Miguel's tone then shifted, cool and firm. "As for management conduct," he said, looking directly at Rick, "there will be changes." Rick's voice cracked. "Please, sir, I've given years to this company." Miguel nodded slowly. "And I recognize that. But leadership isn't measured by years served. It's measured by the way people feel under your leadership. And right now, your team is afraid of you." Rick opened his mouth to protest, but Miguel's next words silenced him. "You'll be reassigned. Effective immediately, you're suspended pending a full review. HR will contact you." Rick stood frozen. The clipboard slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. No one spoke. Not even Lena. There was no gloating, no whispering, only the soft hum of justice settling into the air. After the meeting, the atmosphere changed completely. For the first time in months, people smiled genuinely. Conversations were lighter. Even the music playing through the store seemed softer somehow. Emma hugged Lena near the register. "I told you someone would see you one day," she whispered. Lena laughed, tears in her eyes. "I still can't believe it happened." Miguel stopped by before leaving. "I'll be back next week," he said. "We'll go over the new training plan. But for now, just keep doing what you're doing." "Yes, sir," she said, her voice warm but steady. As he turned to leave, he looked back once more. "You know, Lena," he said quietly, "the best people are often underestimated until the right moment." She smiled. "Maybe that's what keeps us humble." Miguel nodded. "Exactly." Then he walked out into the bright afternoon sun, the same way he had arrived, quietly, calmly, and with purpose. That evening, after the store closed, Lena stood alone by her register. The lights dimmed, and the floor gleamed from fresh cleaning. She ran her hand gently along the counter where she'd spent years standing, thinking of everything that had happened. Not victory, not revenge, just peace. She whispered softly to herself, "Just a cashier, huh?" And then smiled, because she finally knew what she'd always been. More than enough. Outside, the sky deepened into orange and gold. The same store, the same people, but everything had changed. A week passed since the day everything changed. The morning light looked different now, softer, warmer, as if even the sun had decided that Freshmart deserved a fresh start. The same glass doors slid open, but this time there was laughter instead of tension. The air didn't hum with stress. It hummed with quiet purpose. Lena arrived early, as she always did. She paused outside for a moment, taking in the familiar hum of traffic, the smell of baked bread drifting from the nearby cafe. 4 years, this walk had felt routine, a simple path to work. Now, it felt like a path to something more. She pushed open the doors, greeted by cheerful voices. "Morning, Supervisor Morales," someone called playfully. She laughed. "Morning, everyone." The word supervisor still felt strange. Not because she didn't deserve it, but because she never chased it. Her pride wasn't in the title. It was in the journey. Inside, everything looked the same. The aisles, the displays, the registers. But the energy, completely different. Emma waved from across the floor. "You're early again. You're setting the bar too high." Lena smiled. Someone's got to start the coffee machine. Since Rick's departure, the store had been led by a new interim manager, Mr. Daniels, a calm, thoughtful man who believed in listening more than shouting. He'd called a team meeting that first week and said something simple that stuck with everyone. "We serve people. But first, we must learn to serve each other." And that's exactly what they began to do. The gossip faded. The laughter returned. Employees helped one another without fear of criticism. Even customers began to notice. The store, once known for its cold efficiency, now had a warmth that lingered long after checkout. Lena moved through it all quietly, guiding new cashiers, offering advice, checking in on others. She didn't need authority to be respected. She earned it through empathy. 2 weeks later, Miguel Rivera returned. No windbreaker, no clipboard, just a simple smile and a notepad in hand. The moment he walked in, conversations hushed slightly, not out of fear but admiration. He made his way straight to Lena's register. "Good morning, Supervisor," he greeted. "Good morning, Mr. Rivera," she replied, her smile genuine. "I wanted to see how things were running," he said. "And I must say, the atmosphere feels different." "It's the people," Lena said softly. "They just needed to feel seen." Miguel nodded thoughtfully. "You've changed more than morale. You've reminded everyone what leadership looks like." Then he added, "The regional board reviewed your file. They've approved a full-time position overseeing customer relations and training. I believe that's something you've already been doing, just without the title." Lena's eyes widened. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Miguel smiled. "Because you've earned it." She took a breath. Deep, steady, grounded. "I'd be honored," she said finally. Miguel extended his hand. "Congratulations, Manager Morales." The following months brought steady transformation. Under Lena's quiet guidance, Freshmart became a store people loved to work in. Turnover dropped. Complaints vanished. Customers started leaving notes of appreciation. A little boy drew a crayon picture of her once, stick figures behind a counter with a big smile above it that read, "Nice lady." She kept it taped near her register. It reminded her that kindness leaves footprints even where money and titles fade. One afternoon, she overheard a new hire whisper, "That's her, the one who stood up to the manager everyone feared." Lena smiled quietly, pretending not to hear. Because to her, it was never about standing up to anyone. It was about standing firm for what was right. Months later, one quiet afternoon, Lena was finishing paperwork in the small back office when the door creaked open. Rick stood there, not in a crisp shirt and tie this time, but in plain clothes, holding a folder. "Hey," he said awkwardly. "Can we talk?" Lena hesitated but nodded. "Sure." He stepped inside slowly. His voice was lower now, stripped of arrogance. "I wanted to apologize. For how I treated you. For everything, really." Lena studied him, not with anger, but with calm understanding. "It takes courage to say that," she said softly. Rick looked down. "I thought power meant being feared. But you showed everyone that real respect is earned. I learned that the hard way." She gave a small smile. "We all learn when we're ready to listen." He nodded, quietly grateful. "You're a better manager than I ever was." As he left, Lena sat still for a moment, reflecting. Forgiveness didn't erase the past, but it released its weight. And that was enough. Months turned into seasons. Lena often spoke at staff training sessions, sharing her story not as a cautionary tale, but as a lesson in grace. She'd say, "You'll meet people who forget your worth. That doesn't make you worth less. Dignity isn't given by others. It's something you carry within you. Protect it quietly, every day." Employees listened, inspired not by grand speeches but by her calm conviction. Her story spread quietly through other stores. People began referring to her as the heart of Freshmart. Miguel visited again one afternoon and watched from a distance as she led a group of trainees. He smiled to himself. The company had plenty of managers, but only a few leaders, and she was one of them. That evening, long after the store had closed, Lena lingered by her old register, number 3, the same spot where she'd once stood day after day, being told she was just a cashier. Now it sat quiet, empty, the red light of the scanner blinking softly like a heartbeat. She traced her hand along the counter, remembering the faces, the small moments that had shaped her journey, the customers who smiled, the co-workers who believed in her, even the hardships that taught her patience. She whispered to the empty aisle, "I guess I was never just anything." And in that moment, she realized something profound. Titles fade. Recognition passes. But the way you make people feel, that's what lasts. As she walked out of the store, the streetlights flickered on, just like that first night after Rick's harsh words. Only now, the air didn't feel heavy. It felt alive. She stopped by the same cafe she always used to visit after long shifts. The barista recognized her and smiled. "Hey, haven't seen you in a while. How's life treating you?" Lena smiled, holding her warm cup of tea. "Better than I deserve, maybe." He laughed. "You always did deserve better." She took a sip, watching people pass by the store window. Inside, she could see her co-workers laughing, helping customers, moving with confidence. And for the first time, she saw what she had built, not alone, but together. The quiet cashier who once blended into the background had become the foundation of something new. Sometimes, the smallest voices carry the strongest truths. The world may call you just something, just a worker, just an assistant, just a cashier. But the word just disappears when your heart shows up every day. You are never defined by your title, only by your character. As the story closes, we return to the same imagery from the beginning. The grocery store bathed in morning light, the hum of scanners, the laughter of co-workers. But now everything feels lighter, brighter, reborn. Lena stands near the entrance, greeting a customer with the same gentle warmth that started it all. "Good morning," she says. "Find everything you need?" The customer smiles. "I did. And thank you. You always make this place feel welcoming." She smiles back. "That's the goal." The camera pans upward, the morning sun reflecting off the store windows. And over it, the narrator's voice. She was never just a cashier. She was the reason everyone remembered what respect looks like. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change everything.